Good evening everyone, welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy. We have been discussing important topics from science and technology for mains examination. So today we are going to discuss some more important topics, and they are very important for your mains examination. So you actually get an idea how to address, how to answer the questions which are revolving around these basic concepts, these basic topics, because these topics are very important and they are also in news in recent times. So another very important topic is about India's navigation system, because India has developed its own navigation system, and that is also called as NAVIC, right? So in fact it is called as Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, IRNSS. So this is India's own navigational satellite system, and as of now, earlier India don't have its own navigation satellite system, and India used to depend on the global positioning system of US. So on this image that you could see actually here, so these are different navigation systems of different countries. For example, GPS belongs to USA, right? So in fact, IRNSS, so this is, as I have already told you, that Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System. So that is what is called as IRNSS. So this is the alternative to the global positioning system of US, and the global positioning system is also a navigational system on which India has depended on so far, right? And in fact, this Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System will actually cover a radius of around 1500 kilometers within from India. It actually covers 1500 kilometers, and in fact, with IRNSS, with the development of India's own regional navigation satellite system, so India has actually joined an allied club of nations that you actually see here, because as of now only few countries have their own satellite navigation systems. For example, GPS belongs to US, and it is a constellation of 31 satellites, right? For example, India's IRNSS, so it has a constellation of around 7 satellites. So similarly, it has a 31 satellites, GPS, the global positioning system. However, the global positioning system of US has a global coverage, but the IRNSS is not having the global coverage. It is just having a coverage of around 1500 kilometers of radius that it is having. And in fact, the first satellite as part of GPS was launched in the year 1978, and in fact, the lifetime of each satellite that has launched is around 10 years, and in fact the precision of the global positioning system is 5 meters. On the other hand, when we talk about the Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, it has a constellation of 7 satellites in different orbits, and it has a radius of 1500 kilometers, or it has a coverage of around 1500 kilometers. Remember that this question is already asked in prelims examination, so therefore this is very important. And in fact, the first satellite that was launched as part of the IRNSS was in the year 2013. So 2013 was the year when the first satellite as part of IRNSS was launched, and in fact the lifetime of each satellite is around 12 years, and in fact the precision of IRNSS is around 20 meters for the civilians and 10 meters for the military, right? So this is the precision and the precision differences between the IRNSS and also the global positioning system. So as I have already mentioned, that IRNSS is a regional navigation system of India. So going ahead, we'll understand what exactly is a regional navigation system. So regional navigation system is a very important for the transportation, for the military uses, or for the civilian purposes, and even for the aviation. So all these are different applications of having our own navigation system. However, it is not always recommended or advised to depend on the navigation systems of other countries, because it also generates crucial information, crucial data, and that could actually potentially threaten the national security as well. And because of that reason, it is always advised to have our own navigation satellite system. So in order to achieve our own satellite navigation system, this IRNSS has been developed in India. So similarly, like GPS, the countries like Russia also have GLONASS. So GLONASS is a regional navigation satellite system that has been developed by Russia, and it has a constellation of how many satellites? It has a constellation of 24 satellites, and it is also having a global coverage like a GPS. So GPS of US is also having global coverage. So that essentially means that it covers the entire globe. However, IRNSS don't cover the entire planet. It is having a coverage of just 1500 kilometers radius, but GLONASS covers the entire planet. And in fact, the first satellite was launched in the year 1982, and the lifetime of each satellite is again 10 years like GPS, and the precision is 5 meters to 10 meters. And apart from US, Russia and India, European Union also has its own satellite navigation system. So that is called as Galileo. So it is called as what? It is called as Galileo, and it is a European Union satellite navigation system, and it has a constellation of around 40 satellites. And in fact, it was first launched in the year 2011, and it is also having the global coverage. And lifetime of each satellite is 12 years, and its precision is 1 meter for public and 1 centimeter for the military. So I would say Galileo regional navigation satellite system is actually having a more precision compared to the GPS and also the GLONASS. And China also has its own, it also having its own navigation system. For example, it is being called as Beidou. Right, so it is called as Beidou, and it has a 2 separate satellite constellations. So in fact, a limited test system and full-scale global navigation system. So how many number of satellites that this Beidou navigation system of Russia is having? So it is having 35 satellites, and the first satellite was launched in October 2000, and it is also having the global coverage. So here you could actually see that all major navigation systems that are mentioned here are having the global coverage, except Indian regional navigation satellite system, because it is having a coverage of just 1500 kilometers but not the global coverage, right? But on the other hand, Galileo, GLONASS, Beidou and GPS, all navigation systems have the global coverage. And if we go further into the details with respect to the Indian regional navigation satellite system, so this is also called as NAVIC, right? So this is also called as NAVIC. And in fact, this NAVIC has been designed to provide accurate real-time positioning, right? So what it do, it provide accurate real-time positioning, and also the timing services for the users in India, as well as up to 1500 kilometers from the boundary, right? So that is the main advantages of Indian regional navigation satellite system, or IRNSS or NAVIC, right? So in fact, as I have already told you, that IRNSS is having 7 satellites, right? So it is having a constellation of 7 satellites, and out of 7 satellites, so 3 satellites are located in a geostationary orbit, right? So 3 satellites are located in geostationary orbit, and 4 satellites are located in geosynchronous orbit, right? So these are the 7 satellites which are part of the IRNSS. And in fact, It will provide two different types of services. NAVIC actually provide two different types of services. One is a standard positioning service. So this standard positioning service is for all the users. However, the restricted services, so restricted services are encrypted services. They are only provided to the authorized users, such as military purposes and even for the security agencies. So these are two types of services this Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System will actually provide. So you can actually see a detailed list of applications of this NAVIC system or Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System. So if you can look at these applications, so it is actually having benefits, or it actually benefits the terrestrial, aerial and also the marine navigation. So all three different modes of transportation would get benefited from the NAVIC. And in fact, it also plays a very important role when it comes to the disaster management and reducing the loss that is being caused by the disasters, and further relief and rescue operations also. This IRNSS will play a very important role. Similarly, it can actually track the vehicles and fleet management, and it provides precise timing, mapping and the data and terrestrial navigation aid for the hikers, travelers, visual and voice navigation for the drivers. So all these are the major applications that the Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System can actually provide. Okay, so I hope it is to some extent clear for you what constitutes Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System. So it actually offers various services, right? So we should understand the services which are offered by the navigation system, right? So in fact, we have just discussed that it actually offers two different types of services. One is the standard positioning service, right? So standard positioning service would be provided to the all users, right? So it is being provided to all users, particularly the civilian users and the restricted services. So restricted services is provided for certain authorized users, such as the military personnels, for military personnel, and also for the security agencies. So these are two different services that the Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System actually provide, because a certain information that could be considered as encrypted information, and that could be considered as a sensitive information, and though information should not be shared with all the users and civilian users, so that information is very important for the national security. So the restricted services for the strategic purposes, strategic uses, would only be shared with the military personnel and the security personnel. So it also uses different frequency bands as well, right? So it uses both L5 and S bands for the communication. And when we talk about the coverage, we have already discussed the coverage of IRNSS. It has a coverage of up to 1500 kilometers from the boundaries of the country. So from the boundaries of the country, it actually cover 1500 kilometers. And when we talk about the accuracy of the Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, so it actually provide the position accuracy better than 20 meters, right? So it is actually designed to provide the position accuracy better than the 20 meters. And even signals interoperability, because the Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, or NAVIC SPS signals are interoperable with other global navigation satellite systems, namely the GPS of US, GLONASS of Russia, Galileo of European Union, and Beidou of China as well, right? So signals are actually interoperable. So interoperability of IRNSS is also ensured, so that would potentially benefit the navigational services as well. And constant speed in the sense that unlike the global positioning system, NAVIC uses satellites in high geostationary orbit. Remember that there are 3 satellites in the geostationary orbit and 4 satellites in the geosynchronous orbit. So therefore the positioning services would be provided at a constant speed, right? So a constant speed is also another major advantage of the IRNSS. And in fact, these satellites move at a constant speed relative to the Earth, so they are always looking over the same region on the Earth. So these are the essential services which are provided by the NAVIC. And in fact, what are the advantages? So we have just understood the services that NAVIC provides, and what are the advantages of regional navigation satellite system or NAVIC. Of course, it improves the accuracy of the positioning, right? So it provides accurate positioning. So we have just understood that it provides, or it is designed to provide accurate positioning better than 20 meters. So therefore, don't you think that this is an advantage, because it would provide accurate positioning, and accurate positioning is very, very important. So therefore we can actually classify Indian regional navigation satellite system as highly accurate when it comes to providing accurate positioning services, right? And in fact, the IRNSS is actually tailored or aligned with the Indian region or needs of the Indian region. So it is very important for the transportation, agriculture, and even disaster management. So remember, one of the few advantages of Indian regional navigation satellite system, including transportation, right? So transportation, particularly navigation, the terrestrial navigation, and also terrestrial navigation, and also marine navigation. So these are some of the, and even disaster management also, this is another major application, and this can also be used in the agriculture sector as well. So these are some of the applications of Indian regional navigation satellite system. So therefore it actually ensures regular and consistent signals, thereby it would further significantly enhance the coverage as well, and it will benefit the transportation, it will also benefit in disaster management, it will also benefit in the agriculture in remote rural areas as well. And apart from that, we should also talk about the reliability of NAVIC system, because NAVIC's dedicated service for India actually means users can actually rely on its signals that NAVIC provides without external dependencies. So remember that before NAVIC, we used to depend on the global positioning systems, and during Kargil war also US denied to provide us with the GPS access. So therefore, because of that reason, India felt the need to have its own regional navigation system, a satellite system. So therefore, because of that reason, we have developed Indian regional navigation satellite system. And apart from that, it is not just for the strategic purposes, but it is not just for the geopolitical purposes, but it is also very, very important for the safety and security, particularly about the national security. And we have also reduced our dependence on other countries' navigation systems, and we have achieved the self-reliance. When it comes to our own satellite navigation systems, and that is a step in the right direction, aligned with India's Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. And better signal penetration is also another major advantage, because NAVIC signals actually penetrate congested urban areas and dense forests more effectively, and thereby it ensures reliable reception as well, and even it helps in the national sovereignty as well. So how it ensures the national sovereignty and how it protects the national security, because NAVIC actually reduces reliance on foreign systems. So we no longer dependent on the global positioning system. So we will never depend on other global positioning systems such as GLONASS and Galileo and Beidou. So therefore, what we have done, so we have achieved self-reliance when it comes to our own navigation system. So thereby that enhances the technological independence, our sovereignty, and it also protects the national security well, right? So it also protects our national security as well. And through the IRNSS NAVIC, we can actually provide the customized services as well. So those customized services which could be aligned and tailored to the region needs, and thereby fostering innovation and also economic growth in various other sectors. So these are the major advantages of the regional navigation satellite system, or NAVIC. And in fact, we will understand the significance of integrating NAVIC in smartphones. So how it is going to benefit, integrating the NAVIC system into the smartphones, because one thing that we should understand here, when we have integrated NAVIC system in our smartphones, it actually provides us the location based services. It provides us the location based services. And I hope you have opened Google Maps. So those Google Maps, so they provide the accurate positioning. So thereby it is very important to integrate NAVIC in smartphones in India, because that could potentially reduce dependence on foreign systems such as the global positioning systems, right? So remember that by developing NAVIC, we have achieved self-reliance in navigation system for India. So we have achieved self-reliance. So when we integrate NAVIC with our smartphones, this actually reduces India's dependence or India's overall reliance on foreign global navigation systems such as GPS. Remember, before NAVIC, we used to depend on the global positioning system. So when we integrate NAVIC into our smartphones, it would substantially reduce our dependence on the foreign navigation systems such as GPS. And in fact, this is a major step in technological independence, right? So that indicates that we are technologically independent, and along with technological independence, so the capability to develop and also deploy critical infrastructure, right? So we have the capability to develop and also deploy the critical infrastructure on our own. Now, yesterday we talked about Chandrayaan 3 mission and we talked about the Gaganyaan mission. So in Chandrayaan 3 and Gaganyaan, so we have developed these technologies indigenously. So we have indigenously developed these technologies. So we have been demonstrating our capability to test these newly developed technologies. So in a similar way, NAVIC is also a major step that indicates India's ability to deploy and develop critical infrastructure on its own without depending on any other country. So therefore, this could be the first advantage. And the second major advantage is the national security. Remember that protection of national security is a primary imperative for India. So we should protect our national security. So national security is very, very important, along with ensuring the sovereignty of our nation. So when we dependent on other countries' positioning systems, other countries' navigation systems, so don't you think that our national security would be compromised, because the crucial information about countries' national security would be passed on to those respective countries? So thereby ensuring NAVIC to these smartphones ensures that India can control and secure its vital navigation infrastructure. So whatever vital navigation infrastructure that we have, so the core infrastructure, the core security infrastructure, or the strategic infrastructure, we could effectively protect that sort of an infrastructure. And this is very, very important for ensuring national security and also protecting our defense defense establishments, or the defense applications. So therefore, this could be another major significant need for integrating NAVIC with smartphones in India, because this could mitigate the risk of disruptions or compromises in navigation services due to the critical situation. So we no longer dependent on other countries for our navigational services, because we already developed Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System NAVIC, right? So that protects our national security, that ensures sovereignty of a country. So that is very, very important for any country, becoming self-reliant, not depending on other countries. Because when we dependent on other countries, the other countries could use our dependence for their geopolitical benefits or geopolitical interests, and that will not be good for India's longer or larger national interest. And in fact, with this IRNSS, it would also further improve accuracy and also the reliability as well, because NAVIC actually provides highly accurate and reliable positioning and timing information, especially in the Indian subcontinent and also the surrounding regions. And this is very, very important and or essential for various applications, including disaster management, agriculture, urban planning, and even transportation. So thereby it would lead to the more efficient decision making and more efficient resources allocation as well, right? So this could be another major advantage of integration of NAVIC with the smartphones. And expansion of use cases and innovation is another very significant aspect as well, because integration of NAVIC actually opens up opportunities for a wide range of location-based services, navigation apps, innovative solutions, emergence of new startups, and local entrepreneurship. So it would result in further expansion of use cases and more innovation, and that would foster the entrepreneurship and also gainful employment creation, right? So entrepreneurship over a period of time would lead to thriving app development ecosystem and also innovation in the technology domain as well. So next, a very important topic is national geospatial policy. So we'll be understanding what exactly is a geospatial technology. So we'll understand geospatial technology and why geospatial technology is very, very important for a country like India. And that is why the government has framed National Geospatial Policy in the year 2022. So we will be understanding all these important aspects with respect to the National Geospatial Policy. And in fact, in the year 2022, the Ministry of Science and Technology has notified this National Geospatial Policy 2022. And in fact, the objective of launching National Geospatial Policy 2022 is making India a world leader, right? Making India a world leader in the geospatial sector. So in order to make India a global leader in the geospatial sector, Ministry of Science and Technology has launched National Geospatial Policy in the year 2022. And in fact, if you look at the potential of the geospatial technology in India or geospatial economy in India, so this geospatial economy is having the potential of, or it is expected to cross 63,000 crore by the year 2025, and it can grow with an estimated growth rate of around 12.8%, and it could also provide employment to more than 10 lakh people, right? So this is the true potential of the geospatial sector or geospatial economy in India, right? So what is its exact potential? Its potential is that it is estimated or expected to cross 63,000 crore, and it could grow at a pace of 12.8%, and it can also create 10 lakh employment, right? So more than 10 lakh people would get employed by the geospatial economy in the coming future. So this is the potential. Now we'll understand what exactly is a geospatial technology, right? So it is very important for us to understand the geospatial technology. So geospatial technology actually uses the geographic information system, right? So it uses the geographic information system, and it also uses the global positioning system of US, navigation system of US, and it also uses the remote sensing, right? So the geospatial technology actually uses a set of technologies such as the geographic information system, global positioning system, and also the remote sensing. And it will be used for what? It will be used for the geographic mapping. It will be used for geographic mapping and analysis. Geographic mapping and analysis. So that is what is called as the geospatial technology. Also, with the help of the geospatial technology, we could actually analyze the existing data, and we could also produce the geographic mapping, both geographic mapping and also analysis of existing data. And in fact, the static location data that could be analyzed and maps about a particular location could be produced. So that actually include the position of a road, earthquake event, or malnourishment among children in a particular region, and even the other dynamic location data. So that include data related to moving vehicle, pedestrian, or spread of infectious diseases. So all these are considered as important information which is part of the national geospatial policy, or the geospatial technology can actually have multiple applications like this. And in fact, the technology, the analysis, the mapping would facilitate decision making based on importance and also priority of scarce resources, right? So that is what is called as national geospatial tech policy or geospatial technology. Now, so the government has understood the potential of the geospatial technology, because the geospatial economy in India would actually expected to cross 60,000 crore in the coming 5 years, and it can grow at a pace of 12.8% per annum, and it can also create employment for at least 10 lakh people. So keeping this in mind, all these different statistics about the geospatial economy, the government has framed what? The government has framed national geospatial policy. National geospatial policy in the year 2022. And in fact, it is considered as a citizen-centric policy. The national geospatial policy is considered as the citizen-centric policy because it is based on geospatial technology, and that seeks to further strengthen the geospatial sector to support the national development, right? So it would further support the national development, and it would further strengthen the geospatial technology as well, or tech sector as well, and over a period of time it would lead to economic prosperity, economic growth, economic development, economic prosperity. So that means economic growth, economic development, and also a thriving information economy. Now remember that this is just a potential, and if we have any conducive policy, a conducive policy that could further support the existing geospatial sector and geospatial economy, so it can grow at a much faster pace, and it could actually create more employment opportunities, and its total value could be increased manyfold, right? So that is why the government has actually framed this national geospatial policy, and that's set to benefit the economy. Particularly, it would result in economic prosperity, and it would also result in a thriving information economy. And similarly, this policy is aimed to set up high resolution topographical survey. It provides mapping, and it also provide a mapping with high accuracy digital elevation mode by the year 2030, right? So by the year 2030, it actually provide mapping with high accuracy digital elevation model. And what are the vision and the goals of National Geospatial Policy of 2022? So it is having certain goals, and it is having a vision as well. So it aims to make India a world leader in global geospatial space, right? Because what is the goal, what is the aim when the government framed National Geospatial Policy? So it wanted to make India a global leader in the global geospatial space. So that is the one objective with which this National Geospatial Policy has been framed, with best in the class ecosystem for innovation. Secondly, to develop more coherent national framework in the country. So for example, whenever we have a policy, so policy would result in more clarity, and policy would also establish a conducive environment. So therefore, it would result in a coherent national framework, framework in the country, and thereby it leverage a move towards a digital economy and also improve services to the citizens. So this is another major advantage, right? Providing services and more ease in access to services or improving services to citizens are the objectives of the National Geospatial Policy. And it would develop geospatial infrastructure, geospatial skills, knowledge, standards, and the geospatial businesses as well. And that would set to further contribute to the existing potential of the Indian geospatial sector or the geospatial economy as well, right? And it would promote innovation. It would further strengthen national, sub-national arrangements for generation and even management of the geospatial information, right? So these are vision and goals of the National Geospatial Policy of 2022. Now here, an institutional framework has been established, because institutional framework is very, very important, because this institutional framework would result in the better implementation of the National Geospatial Policy, because any policy would have the institutional framework as well, right? So the Geospatial Data Promotion and Development Committee, right? So Geospatial Data Promotion and Development Committee at the national level shall be considered as an apex body for formulating and implementing strategies related to promotion of geospatial sector, right? So this is an institutional architecture at the national level, and that also acts as an apex body for formulating and also implementing all the strategies at the national level related to the promotion of this geospatial sector, right? So that is a kind of an institutional framework, and that has been established. And what are the related concerns? There are certain concerns, these are considered as the issues with geospatial economy. So there are certain issues with respect to the geospatial economy. So what are those issues? So geospatial data can be described as complex data, because geospatial data is very often considered as a complex data. It is not easy to analyze the data, understand the data, so it actually generates complex data, and it is also consisting of complex data with complex relationships among them. So therefore, improved services to the citizens and also ease in understanding the complex data that is generated by the geospatial technology is one key concern here. And in fact, little attention has been given when it comes to addressing the national security concerns as well, because this geospatial data also having concerns with respect to national security, such as access control, securities, privacy policies, development of secure and in particular inoperable GIS applications. So all these are the national security concerns that have to be addressed whenever you are having this national geospatial policy. You should also address the potential threats to the national security as well. So there are also concerns with respect to data misuse and privacy violations as well, because we are living in an age of technology, and we are living in digital era. So therefore, very often there is a state surveillance, misuse of data, privacy violations, and privacy is also part of Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, right? So in Puttaswamy judgment, the Supreme Court has held that right to privacy is part of the fundamental right under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. So therefore, sensitive information such as building ownerships, so they might be revealed, or information about critical infrastructure could become publicly accessible, and it is a major concern in the context of applications in defense. So therefore, data misuse needs to be prevented and privacy of the individuals should also be protected, and this area has to be worked on in a more vigorous manner. Now the next topic is biotechnology, and biotechnology is also a very important topic. So you can also expect at least one question from this particular topic. Now what is a biotechnology? First of all, we should understand what exactly is a biotechnology, the definition of biotechnology. In fact, United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity has defined what constitutes biotechnology, right? So this is also known as United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity. So this has defined what constitutes biotechnology, and as per this convention, biotechnology encompasses a technological application, right? So it encompasses any technological application, and that technological application utilizes biological systems, living organisms, or their derivatives to create or modify products and processes for the specific purposes, right? So it actually utilizes the biological systems, living organisms, and their derivatives to create or modify products and processes for specific purposes, particularly to derive the products for the human benefit, So this is how the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity has defined biotechnology. I hope you have understood this. So it actually uses the technological application. So the technological application that utilizes biological systems, living organisms, and their derivatives to create, modify products and processes for the specific purposes. Now, what are the applications of biotechnology? So it is very important. First, we need to understand the applications of biodiversity. For example, it would result in medical diagnosis. So, nowadays, the share of non-communicable diseases has been increasing at a manifold. So therefore, in this context, biotechnology plays a very important role in medical diagnosis of various diseases, animal breeding in agriculture, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, vaccine manufacturing, vaccine development, improvement in food technology and fermentation technology, recombinant DNA technology, for production of better offspring, and also plant agriculture, crop improvement, environment and energy management. So these are all very important applications of biotechnology. When I say environment and energy management, biofuels can be produced, sustainable biofuels can be produced, and that could offset carbon, that can actually offset carbon, or can actually reduce our dependence on fossil fuels, right? So they can actually reduce our dependence on fossil fuel. So crop improvement would result in food security and further enhancing farm incomes or remunerative farm income for the farming community and protection of the livelihood of the farmers. And recombinant DNA technology would be used for preventing diseases, right? And even fermentation technology can be used in alcohol industry and various other industries, and even vaccine manufacturing, vaccine development, and improvement in food technology as well, right? For example, when I say improvement in food technology, food fortification, I hope you knew what is food fortification, fortified food, right? So food would consist of certain essential nutrients, and that would help address problems like malnutrition, and so all those problems, and animal breeding in agriculture. So these are certain applications of biotechnology. And on this image you can actually see some statistics with respect to biotechnology and its contribution in India. And in fact, when we talk about biotechnology's contribution to India's GDP, it has been contributing to around 2.6% of GDP, right? So this is a big amount, and in fact biotechnology is also having a lot of potential in terms of its contribution to the GDP. And in fact, at the global level, India holds around 3% share of the global biotechnology industry, right? So in global biotechnology industry, India is having a share of around 3%. And in fact, over the last decade, biotechnology startups in India have skyrocketed from 50 to over 5,300. So this is a major jump in the biotechnology industries, and that is a step in the right. I mean, this has been indicating that the biotechnology industry would grow at a faster pace in the future, and future projection indicating that a robust talent pool in the arena of biotechnology and biotech startups, so that actually predict exceeding 10,000 by the year 2025. So this is actually the potential of biotechnology in India that we actually have. Now it is important for us to understand the applications of biotechnology. So biotechnology is having a number of applications. So it is having applications in number of different sectors, right? So it would ultimately result in the betterment of humans. So it provides benefits to the human beings. So therefore, because of that reason, so these are considered as crucial and a very important applications of the biotechnology. So firstly, it is having applications in medicinal biotechnology, or it is also called as the red biotechnology, because this is a kind of a biotechnology that is being used in the healthcare and even diagnosis of diseases, and not just diagnosis of diseases, and this can also be used in the treatment for various diseases, right? So therefore it is having applications in the red biotechnology. Secondly, the gene therapy, right? So it is also having applications in gene therapy. So gene therapy is actually a method that uses genetics, right? So in gene therapy, genetics are being used to treat, to prevent, or to even to some extent cure the illness, right? So that is the gene therapy method. So gene therapy method uses genetics for the treatment, for the prevention, and even for the cure of various illnesses and various diseases, and it actually works by replacing a defective or a missing gene in patient cells with a healthier version. So imagine that in a genetic structure of a patient, so there is a defective gene, there is a missing gene. So this defective gene or a missing gene would be removed with a healthier version of the gene, and that's how the patient's illness would be treated, prevented, and it would be cured in the future as well. And in fact, CAR T cell therapy is also another very important application of the biotechnology. In CAR T cell therapy, so it is a kind of a cancer immunotherapy, right? CAR T is a kind of a cancer immunotherapy treatment, and in which the immune cells, because T cells are called as the immune cells, so they are being genetically modified in a lab so that they can more effectively identify and eliminate the cancer cells as well. So therefore biotechnology is also used in the cancer treatment as well. So in the cancer treatment as well, the biotechnology is being used. Similarly, the genome sequencing. So genome sequencing can also be used to for the diagnosis of diseases and also for the treatment of diseases, and drug designing, drug manufacturing, vaccine design, vaccine manufacturing as well, because genome sequencing actually refers to sequencing the entire genomic structure of a particular organ or particular organism, right, a particular animal. So this genomic sequencing is used for the diagnosis of diseases as well as identifying the therapeutic targets of various diseases. Thereby it would also help in the treatment of various illnesses. For example, sequencing of the COVID-19 virus was extremely useful for the development of its vaccines. So vaccines are being developed across the world, and for the development of vaccines, the sequencing of the COVID-19 virus has helped a lot. And in fact, biotechnology is also having applications in the therapeutic proteins development and manufacturing as well. So therapeutic proteins like insulin and monoclonal antibodies, so these are known as the therapeutic proteins. And these therapeutic proteins are being used for the treatment of human immunodeficiency virus, for the treatment of cancer and various other diseases. And these proteins can be, therapeutic proteins can be produced, manufactured using the biotechnology, right? Because genetic engineering. So we'll understand what exactly is genetic engineering. So genetic engineering is a method. So this using this method, which is part of the biotechnology, the therapeutic proteins can be produced, right? So these therapeutic proteins actually naturally occurring, but they can be artificially produced using the genetic engineering method. And similarly, sustainable biofuels could be produced using the biotechnology, right? So biofuels which are sourced from plant materials such as corn stalk, grass, are being developed as a renewable fuel alternatives that would help reduce the carbon footprint and also reduce the dependence on fossil fuels. Because remember that 85 to 87% of the fossil fuels we have been importing from other countries. For example, as of now we have been using various biofuels such as bioethanol and biodiesel. So they can be produced on a large scale, they can be produced on an industrial scale using the biotechnology, and that would help reduce our dependence on import of the fossil fuels, and that would also save a huge forex reserves for us, and that would also help India meet its ambitious emission targets, right? So therefore it is very, very important for India to focus on biotechnology, and that would further help in production of the sustainable biofuels and agricultural technology, or this is also known as green biotechnology. So biotechnology gives farmers various tools to make production more cost effective and also manageable. For example, genetically modified crops like BT cotton. have increased the productivity of various crops. And even the animal biotechnology. So when we talk about the animal biotechnology, so it has helped to create many beneficial genetically modified animals. So the best example would be, the first transgenic animal was dolly sheep, so that has been developed. So these are all various applications of the biotechnology. However, biotechnology is also having certain issues or certain concerns as well. So what are the key concerns that biotechnology is having? One is the ethical concerns that it is having, because genetic modifications in humans, animals, and crops, so it actually sparks some moral boundaries, right? Because it is not natural and it is against the principles of nature, the laws of nature. So human beings are actually altering the genetic structure. So therefore it actually sparked debates all around the world, whether it is ethical, whether it is morally right, changing the genetic structure of various animals, producing new animals using biotechnology and genetic engineering. So therefore it is certainly having the ethical concerns. Similarly, environmental impact as well, because environmental impact, I would say the genetically modified organisms would have a huge implications on the environment, because they impact the existing biodiversity. And they would also have a huge implications on ecosystem as well, ecosystem sustainability as well. And because of that particular reason, using biotechnology to produce genetically modified organisms or crops is being questioned. So in India, genetically modified crops, when it comes to the genetically modified crops, BT cotton is allowed for the commercial cultivation, but not other crops are being allowed because of the concerns for the environment and also for the biodiversity. And it also poses significant and substantial health risks, because there's an uncertainty about long-term effects of GM foods and gene therapies, and the intellectual property rights, for example patenting the plant products, that can actually limit the access, and it also raises the affordability concerns for the farmers. Because in India, most of the farmers are below poverty line, and they are not getting remunerative prices for their produce, and they have been facing problems due to lack of market infrastructure. So therefore, keeping in mind allowing the private sector and arbitrarily increasing the prices of seeds of various crops would certainly have a huge impact on the farmers as well. And it is also having certain socio-economic issues. For example, it could widen the existing inequalities, income inequalities, economic inequalities, regional inequalities, and it could also benefit certain regions or certain companies as well. So this could be another major concern. And biosecurity risks. So when I say biosecurity risks, so this could be essentially used for producing bioweapons, so that could be disastrous, right? So production of bioweapons by any rogue country, that would have a global threat as well. And regulatory challenges. There is an absence of global regulatory architecture at the global level, and global regulatory architecture is also very, very important to ensure public safety, and also the public acceptance is also very, very complex. So there is a need for a global collaboration, and there is a need for a particular regulatory architecture at the global level. So what should be the way forward in this context? The way forward is that there is a need to advance biotechnology responsibly. Stricter regulatory frameworks are essential and important to ensure safety and also public trust. And similarly, there is a need to promote transparency and even larger public engagement, and that would address the ethical concerns, and that would also foster acceptance among the public. So thereby multi-stakeholder engagement is very, very important here. And in fact, so research and development is another very important arena that should be focused upon, because research and development would result in minimizing the concerns associated with the biotechnology and genetic engineering, and that would result in developing sustainable practices, and those sustainable practices would further limit the risk of biotechnology and genetic engineering on environment. And similarly, collaboration between the governments, industry, academia is also very, very important to ensure equitable access to the biotech innovations. And at the global level, there should be a regulatory architecture that should be developed. And similarly, strengthening the biosecurity measures will mitigate the misuse of biotechnology for the personal benefits of one particular country or one particular individual. And at the same time, there is a need to promote global cooperation for fair use in the healthcare and agriculture sectors, thereby focusing on reducing the inequalities across the globe or across the region. So that's how you can write the way forward in this answer. And anyway, that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. So if you like our lecture, please subscribe our YouTube channel and also hit the like button. Thank you.